The other thing I'd like to sort of talk about a little bit is Mr. Petrov's letters to the board. Here he was trying to help us understand sort of what Mr. Shaw was thinking about and where he was coming from. And while in some ways that might not have a direct bearing on whether or not this is a zoning violation or not, in some other ways I think it does. And so for that reason, I'd like to address it to a certain extent. Mr. Petrov says that Mr. Shaw he spent a lot of time, effort, and money in putting this together as a celebration of the season, and that he hoped that other people would enjoy the show. I think that's absolutely accurate. He's obviously very associated and very tied into this display. He's very tied to it and likes it and thinks that it's a great thing, and he really does want people to associate with it and be happy with it. In another letter, Mr. Shaw quotes a Pennsylvania case where it's a Christmas display case, and in that Christmas display case, the court said that a Christmas display is a very important display. It's a very powerful means of communication. It's a way of communicating the individual's views on society, life, and other more philosophical beliefs. I think that's absolutely true as well. But then I would like to ask Mr. Shaw, what is being communicated here? Communications experts and advertisers and so forth, people will all tell you, those kinds of people will all tell you that it's very important to understand what you are communicating from the perspective of the listener to what you are communicating. Advertisers go to great lengths to make sure that they get the right pitch when they are presenting things. In this case, I think what Mr. Shaw is communicating is not the Christmas spirit that he's trying to communicate, the spirit of happiness and peace and unity. I think for some people who are listening to this, what is actually being communicated to them is quite the opposite. What's being communicated is unhappiness and animosity and divisiveness. Later in the same letter, Mr. Petrov quotes the Gospel of Matthew, where he says, "Let your light shine before men." I would hope that Mr. Shaw pays attention to a verse just a little bit before that, where Matthew says, "Blessed are the peacemakers." Mr. Shaw, I think if you continue to pursue this issue, you have heard from many people how divisive this issue is. If you continue to pursue this, whether because we say that you can or whether because you have to pursue other alternatives if we say that it is a violation, I think you have to understand or have to at least reflect on the fact that what you might be doing is that you might be tearing apart this town that you say that you care so much about. It could be very divisive. There will be lots of people who will be very upset. So I ask you, please consider whether or not you would like to continue to pursue this display. If you would want to put up a smaller display that was simply a nativity scene, I'm sure you could get lots of people who would be glad to volunteer to help. But by just following it and the course that you're following so far, I think you can see now just how divisive this might turn out to be. Back to the issue of whether or not I think this is a permitted use or not. What I would like to say is that I would say that the Christmas show is not customary as contemplated in the Cranbury LPO, and that it is a violation of our ordinance.
All right. I guess as most of you can see by my nameplate, and I've spoken with Josette about the last couple of weeks, I am an attorney. I'm not really sure why I asked for that to be reflected on my nameplate, but that is my professional training background. This is one of the more maddening type of cases that law students have to contend with during their legal training. And I don't regret being an attorney, but I don't envy the position that any of us are in right now. This is the thing that I feared the most about coming aboard a zoning what we have in front of us is an extremely polarizing issue. It is loaded because there are a lot of personal feelings at stake. That's what really makes people take sides. My position, my understanding, and my role as an attorney has always been, I need to remove myself from my personal feelings. It doesn't matter if my kids are really happy by the light show. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I think that many or 75,000 lights is gaudy and against the nature of everything about this town, which is why I moved here. That doesn't matter. What matters is, or are, the legal words that are in the New Jersey ordinances. That's what I try to stick to, and I try to follow. Again, we are not an elected body here as the zoning board. Okay? So for questions that rise to that level, where you are actually judging matters of fact, I believe that needs to be left to the courts. That remains an option for the aggrieved parties if they're not happy with the decision. Okay? If that goes to the next level, the case will be heard by someone who has been elected by the people, and they've been voted and approved by the people. He has someone to respond to. This is a group of volunteers. We are neighbors. In theory, we all like each other. Right? In theory. So I want to keep it confined to the words that I'm looking at here. What we hear is customary, incidental, subordinate. We've heard those words. What complicates our understanding of what those terms means is the scope that we are asked to address here. Okay, a Christmas display of non-blinking lights, if you have one in each window, that's fine, but 75,000, that's too many. Says who? Says who? I think we're all entitled to have our own opinion, but I don't believe that a body such as this necessarily has the right to interpret that and tell Mr. Shaw what's right and what's wrong. Okay, what I come back to is I reread the violation so cited by Mr. Green, potential violation of use restrictions. What has been revised to RLD1. The letter indicates that utilization of Mr. Shaw's Christmas light displays as a means of soliciting money and collecting donations is a commercial activity not permitted in the zone. I can't for the life of me understand how that can be construed as a commercial activity until you look at scope. That's where the slippery slope comes up. Okay? What Mr. Shaw has created is not a commercial activity. He doesn't charge people to turn on the radio. He doesn't charge people to look at the light display, the show. It may be a form of entertainment for people. It may be annoying to other people. That's not for me to say. But at the end of the day, it's not a commercial activity. It really isn't. Yes, maybe he collects donations to give to a cause that he publicizes, he keeps records of. He's not stealing the money. He's made that known to all. He produces copies of the checks and donations. He shows us where that money goes. This is not a commercial activity. He's not making money off of this. We know, or we think we know, his family's reasons for conducting this activity. It's on his residential property. He has the right to do whatever he wants there until it infringes on the rights of others. So, then I ask the question, has the light show made this part of town a non-residential area? And I really can't see why you would say that it's no longer a residential area. I can see how people would say, I don't like it. I don't like how it changes the character of the town. But guess what? This town's, 325 years old? They didn't have electricity when this town was founded. So do you want someone else to bring another suit saying, okay, they have lights, and the nature of this town, they didn't have electricity when it was founded? That's the slippery slope that I'm talking about. We can't hear motions and complaints about that kind of stuff, in my opinion. Okay? Maybe we do. Maybe that is something of our jurisdiction. I don't think it is. I think that goes more toward the nuisance side, which goes to a court. Okay? I cannot see how a light display, in and of itself, is not a customary use. Most of us have decorations. We have Christmas lights. We have Kwanzaa lights. We have
whatever lights, okay? The issue here comes down to scope. You can tend to agree with that or not. I believe everyone has the right to make your own judgment. That is something that needs to be adjudicated, in my opinion. I don't believe that's something that the zoning board, a board of representatives of the town who are volunteers, needs to decide, because this is a very sticky neighbor issue that we're being asked to almost adjudicate here. And I know that's not the right word because we're not an adjudicative body, although what we say can end up being how things are going to play out, which makes our task that much more pressure-filled and daunting. But for me, customary, a light show is customary. Is it incidental? I think we've had lots of conversations and heard from everybody tonight that we agree that it is incidental to the use. The Shaws live in their house. They are free to conduct their light show. It is incidental. Is it subordinate? Does it impair the nature of the neighborhood? Talk about your slippery slope issues. Who am I to say what is or the incidental or the nature of a light show on Cranbury? We all have our reasons for living here, for moving here, for doing anything here. The code that we're asked to interpret leaves that intentionally vague. And I think it is because they want to give us some leeway, but a big part of me thinks the people that drafted that code knew that they couldn't come up with an explanation. They don't want to set a limit on the number of lights, or the duration, or the number of shows you can have. Mr. Shaw has voluntarily put in place his own restrictions on the time that the light shows occur. It's 6, 7, and 8 o'clock, maybe running till 9. There's never been a police report about that show. That speaks volumes to me as an attorney. I understand why people are upset, or some people may be upset that they think there's flashing light and it impacts the value of my house. Well, can't Christmas carolers do the very same thing? In theory they could, and that may seem ridiculous, but that's the slippery slope that we're treading on. Comparing the nature of the neighborhood, celebrating Christmas, I think that's what it's all about. That's my personal feeling. I very much appreciate everybody's views, especially those on the board. The lawyer in me, however, can't understand voting or upholding the commercial activity piece of Mr. Green's citations, or they weren't citations, of his opinion on it. Okay? The Shaws have agreed that they would work within the law to make sure that the right size and number of signs were there, if that's what we advise. And I would strongly advise that you revisit that issue. But I have to warn everybody, if we tend to go into what's right and wrong and what's the limit of number of lights you have, I think that's really treading on very dangerous ground. And that slippery slope is not a place that I want to be. Because we don't have the accountability, we don't have the resources to really deal with that. Because then what's to say someone's not going to come before this board and say, I don't like the general league card that person has in front of his, in the front window of his house. That offends me. General Lee has the Union, not Union Jack, has the Southern flag, the Rebels flag. Maybe I don't agree with it. Okay, it's a zoning violation. That has nothing to do with Cranbury's character or nature. Okay, you have the right to feel that, but we don't have the, not necessarily the time, but the expertise or the accountability here as a volunteer board to adjudicate that dispute between neighbors. So I think dispute between neighbors need to be reserved for the courts. If the neighbors can't work it out among them, a nuisance action can be brought in the court and they can work it out on that level. For all of those reasons, I apologize if I sound long-winded. I just can't consider this a commercial activity, and the issue basically dies with me there. That's all I have to say.
speak from some 25 years of experience on the planning board and governing body. I think that this is exactly the place where the non-factual values that we've talked about should be brought to bear on the zoning decision, and that the spirit the spirit of the structure of municipal land use law and statute is precisely the best for these kinds of decisions. And community members who have the experience and the respect of the elected body to deal with these issues. So I think the last place you would want one of these emergency evaluated issues to be decided is in a court who are not familiar with what we do and who only have a fragmentary record of and second, I don't think we have to reach in the future the question of whether or not this is commercial. So that, in my view, is irrelevant. If we choose to make it irrelevant, the question is whether it's customary. And the planner has given us much advice about the fact that we apply that judgment, especially if he suggests unless we make a distinction, although I'm not sure it's the precedence between the residential use and the institutional use. So I respectfully disagree with the position.
I understand. Again, I just have to reiterate, it's a slippery slope. I could ask every member in this room if you have a Christmas display or a holiday display. If you say yes, how would you feel if I told you, okay, maybe I disagree with it, I'm going to bring it up to the zoning board. And you're going to take your time and 3 nights of your life and treat it. Is that what we're for? You'll say, well, it's not 75,000 lights. Again, it's a slippery slope. That's why I bring it up. This is a nuisance. If people are upset about parking, if people are upset because they think there's a danger in crossing the street, that's a matter for the local police, of which there's never been a call or anything on the record that we've been shown from Mr. Shaw's light show. He doesn't charge for it. If you want to call it a show, okay. I was a member of a choral group in high school. We went around from house to house singing carols. Would you consider that a show?
For 30 nights?
Absolutely. I had no voice at the end of the month of December. I had to sing every night for 4 hours. For 4 hours. It's a slippery slope. I think what we do look at is what is a commercial activity. I understand your disagreement and why what we have to look at is customary. I think having a light display is customary. You guys are dwelling on the scope of it, and that's fine. Everybody has the right to interpret this their own lives. I don't think scope is necessarily our issue to investigate here until we get past that level. I don't want to write a law that says you can't have more than 50,000 lights that blink. Who says? Because that wasn't the town you moved to. Okay. Great.
So,
I think you're describing describing it in quantity. I don't think it's something about quantity.
I don't know.
Like I said, the size of this display, I have no issue with it. Silver lane display is probably, like that. It's the combination of all the other factors that.
Right. No, I agree. I agree. The totality is something that has to be considered. I don't feel that's my purpose on this board. And I understand what you're saying. I understand that you would rather have a local person, you would rather than a judge, but we're not elected officials. And maybe some people have been here for 35, 50 years. That's great. I've only been here for 3.5. That doesn't make me any less worthy of
violation. I don't want to get into the sort of the distinctions about whether it's commercial or customary, as I mentioned during my discussion. I think that when you started getting into those, I was trying to read sort of somewhat in between the lines as to what the court was saying. I think the accessory use would be, that's part of it. I guess, we could say that it is not a permitted, in fact, let me revise the motion, to say that it is not a permitted accessory use as contemplated under the Cranbury Code. I said. I'm sorry? I said.
Mr. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
No.
Ms. Peacock? Mr. Nissen?
Yes.
Mr. Devereux?
Yes.
Mr. Patterson?
No.
Motion passes.
So the next on the agenda is, we'll take a break.